Welcome back to the Woodsmith Shop. On today's episode, we're starting a whole new adventure. We're building a steamer trunk. Whether you're headed off to school, on a voyage around the world, or just need a place to stash a few extra blankets for the cold winter nights, this is the project for you. It's built out of some solid white oak that one of our cast members, Logan, actually milled here in Iowa. If you'd like to build a version of this steamer trunk for yourself, the plans are at our website, woodsmithshop.com. It's time to get started on building our steamer trunk.
So our steamer trunk build starts by making the case. And in true craftsman style, this is made with stub, tenon, and groove joinery. So what I've done here is I've laid out the parts that I want to be the front of our trunk. I'm going to pick out the grain patterns that are the best and have the biggest ray flex on there. So let's look at the parts here. We have 3 rails, we have a couple of stiles, and then we have these short stiles. These are all going to come together with a bunch of grooves and stub tenons. We're going to have a frame assembly for the front, the back, the sides, and even the bottom. So now that I have everything laid out where I want it, I've identified what I want to be the front of our trunk. Let's head over to the table saw, and we're going to cut some grooves, and then we'll tackle the tenons. So to form our grooves, I'm going to use a dado blade, and I've already loaded that up here. Now this dado blade is actually slightly undersized. The plans call for a 1/4 inch groove, and this is just a hair under, but that's okay. What I'm going to do is as I form these grooves, I'm going to make a pass with a workpiece with one face riding along the fence. Then I'm going to rotate that around and put the opposite face against the fence and recut that groove. What that's going to do is it's going to center that groove precisely on this part. The groove may end up being a little oversized, but that's okay. When we cut our tenons, we'll make them fit the groove. Now there's a couple of things I'm going to do here. First, I'm going to spread all my parts out and make sure I'm cutting the grooves on the right edge of the right parts. Second, I'm going to use a feather board. I'll lock this in place, and this is going to help me keep pressure against the fence with the workpiece as I'm making these cuts. The final thing I'm going to do, especially for these smaller parts, is I'm going to use a push block. So keep my hands nice and clear from the blade. And I'm going to make sure I use dust collection because there's a lot of grooves to cut. So now that we have all the grooves cut, we have to cut tenons to fit into those grooves. So what I've done here is I've increased the width of my dado blade. I added a couple chippers in there, and then I added this auxiliary fence, and I buried the blade in it. What this is going to do is it's going to give me a stop for my parts, and then I'll guide my parts across the dado blade with the miter gauge. What that's going to do is create a stub tenon that's going to then fit inside that groove. So I'm going to do a test cut on a part real quick, and as long as everything fits like I want it to, all we have left to do is cut the tenons on the ends of the short parts and the rails. Then we'll head over to the bench and talk about the panels. So after cutting all the joinery at the table saw, especially with white oak, I find that we get some little chips and kind of junk in the ends of these grooves. So before we glue everything up, I want to make sure I take a chisel and clean that up. We don't want anything holding these joints apart when we do have glue all over everything. There you go. So everything fits together really nicely. Now the only thing we have left to take care of are the panels. Now in the plans, these are going to be plywood panels, 1/4 inch thick. However, here we decided to make this case really heavy and make them out of solid wood. So we've cut 1/2 inch thick solid wood panels. Now to get the 1/2 inch thick panels to fit in that 1/4 inch groove, I went ahead and cut a rabbet all the way around the panels. I did this at the table saw with that same dado blade setup that I used for the tenons. After cutting it, they slip right in place, and I think they're going to look really nice. So now the only thing left to do is start spreading some glue on these tenons and get everything glued up.